Hey there. I'm going to fire off the hip some random thoughts from the perspective of a farmer's market manager. So, I have owned Redeeming the Time Farm Stand and Gifts for 4 years this year, just had our fourth birthday, and 3 of those years we've had farmers markets. And before that, I participated in a very small farmers market here in our small town. And I learned some things. When I go back and I look at the pictures of our first setup, I'll be honest with you, I'm pretty darn proud of it. We did pretty good. I mean, we just did. But I have learned some things watching other people with their setups, what works, what doesn't, what sells, what doesn't. And I'm going to drop some ideas here for you here. Now, these are things that may be a little specific to my market, but I assume that most markets are this way. So take these with a bit of a grain of salt, but know that they're probably more universal than you think they are. At my market, I'm a real stickler for not being a liar. So if you say that you're going to set up, set up. If you say you're going to be there and be set up by a certain time, do that thing. If you say you're going to stay until the time that it's done, then don't pack up until the time that it's done. We've had many big sales come through at that last 5 minutes. And if it looks like you're packing up, you'll forfeit those sales. It's worth it to stay. And as far as I'm concerned, as a farmer's market manager, it's disrespectful to me whenever the vendor starts packing up ahead of time. It makes a liar out of me as the farmer's market manager because I set a set time. I committed that we would be open for that time frame, and if we're not, it's going to give people a lack of trust with us. We're going to lose our credibility. We think, oh, it's going to train them to come earlier. No, it makes them think we're liars. I'm not okay with that. Number 2, presentation is literally everything. You can take a bag of dog poop and put it in a cute bag with a bow, and it will probably sell better than your super bougie product that you grew yourself or harvested with poor packaging. People have been trained by society and massive marketing industries to go for the thing that looks the best. It's the way that it is. Check yourself when you go into a store. What is the thing that you gravitate more towards? There are things that I will buy that I do not need because it's cute, because the packaging is cute. And I've convinced myself in my brain I do need that thing because I like how it looks on the outside. But a farmer's market is no different. It is no different. If your thing is cute and it gives someone a little bit of a dopamine hit, it's probably going to sell better. If it's displayed well, if your booth feels like an experience, it's probably going to sell better. So this is something that I noticed from one of our vendors this weekend. She nailed it. She made more money at her booth than I did at the farm stand all day. She had a whole experience set up. There was an activity for kids down here. It was Mother's Day this last weekend. She had an activity down here for kids to paint pictures for their moms. There was a make your own jewelry for your mom. There was a whole clothing rack out here of like vintage curated clothing. She had plants and super cute, funky containers, and she had her artwork all over the place. You felt like you were walking into a mini store. It was so, I don't know. It was an experience. She did great. She sold a lot of stuff. I think there's something to that. Personal pet peeve of mine. And this is I don't think it's really that personal. I think that it's across the board. Look busy. If you look like you're sitting there at a yard sale, people are going to treat you more than likely like you're sitting there at a yard sale. If you're sitting there in your chair with your hands folded, waiting for someone to walk up, people are going to feel differently about that than if you're whittling on something or you're working on something, crocheting with your hands, as opposed to your feet. Yeah, whatever. If you have the ability to be up and moving around in some way, it's hard to do behind a booth in a 10 by 10 foot space, but be active, be engaging, do what you can to be busy. If you can work on your craft at your booth, do that. If you can't do that, then do something else, but do something. Be friendly. Nobody owes you their business. Be friendly. Be welcoming. Be energetic. Excited about your product. If you're not excited about your product, why the heck should anybody else be? It's not their job to come tell you how great your product is. It's your job to tell them how great your product is. Be excited about it. Be friendly. Be welcoming. For the love of all things living, weigh down your canopy. Stake it into the ground, and if you can't stake it into the ground, use weights, but secure it to the ground. I am the world's worst about not doing that. If I put up a canopy, I have to force myself to find a stake somewhere and stake it into the ground. But for the sake of everyone around you and the environment at the location that you're setting up at, it is worth the money to buy the weights, the sandbags, the stakes, whatever, because guaranteed that big gust of wind is going to come through when you least expect it, and you're going to be so sad. On that note, if your products are lightweight or if you have them up on tiers, secure them. I have seen salsa shattered across the ground, crocheted items blowing into the trees, you name it. Big storms come through at nice, beautiful events, and whoosh, the next thing you know, there's 35 canopies all in the middle of the field, and people's stuff everywhere, and it's heartbreaking. It's devastating. Don't let that happen to you. Secure your stuff. One of the coolest things, so we have a crochet vendor, and she makes different sizes of things. The bigger things, she has a base, and there's a knitting needle through the base of it that goes up into the crocheted animal, and it secures that animal to the ground or to the base. The base is pretty heavy. And then anything else she has in baskets, she has wooden crates on the table. She uses whatever she can to stuff things in so that it's secure. If a big gust of wind comes through, her stuff's not blowing anywhere anymore. She's learned her lessons. If you have something that you can sample it. Again, we're back to the experience, right? Like if people can come to your market and feel like they went to Sam's Club on the weekend and they were able to go try all of these cool things. First of all, the chance of you selling something after you give someone a sample skyrockets. If your product's good, of course. Like if it isn't good, then that's not going to work to your favor. But if you have a good product, then it's only going to help you. You're going to sell much more. It doesn't have to be a huge sample. It doesn't have to be an entire cookie. It could be a little mini cookie, a bite of a cookie. Take something and break it into pieces. But give people a sample of something. If it's a body care product, give them a sample of that thing. Make them think about it. I went to a booth one time. It was at our county fair, and it was someone selling essential oils, and they made cookies that were lemon cookies with a lavender frosting. I can still taste them and crave them. And now my cabinet's full of essential oils. Mission accomplished, people. Pricing is a biggie, and it's really, really, really hard. There is such a fine line between undervaluing your product and saying, oh, it's just my hobby, my time is free, or overvaluing your product and not selling any of it. In our area, things that are undervalued sell more. So the smaller items, that's the moneymaker. Your bigger items around here usually aren't going to go anywhere close to as fast, and you could make your entire business out of those big items and go broke. Or you could have a couple of those big items and then have a whole slew of little items. You're going to make your money on those little items while you wait for those big items to sell. So keep that in mind whenever you're creating your product and whenever you're pricing your product. That's really important. Don't undersell yourself. But look at your local demographic too. Not necessary, optional, but it does make a big difference. Have multiple ways for people to pay. Cash App isn't hard. You set up your Cash App account, you print out a QR code, laminate that. People can print out business cards that have your QR code on the back. People can use their phone, scan your QR code, Cash App you money. Boom, done. PayPal, the same. Square, if you have multiple things in your inventory and you want to keep track of your inventory, Square is a really great way to do that. That's what we use for the shop is Square. Love it. Love it so much. Cash is king, but there's a good amount of people that just don't carry it, even to a farmer's market. So at our farmer's market, we have the luxury of me. That person can come in and pay me. I turn around and go give that cash to that vendor, but not every market has that. And it kind of is a little bit of a pain in the butt because now I got to pay sales tax on that thing and I didn't get any money for it. So it's a service that I offer, but it would be nice if the vendors had another way to pay, not necessary, but it's nice. Advertise for yourself. Advertise for yourself. At my market, I do take on predominantly the role of advertising, but we would grow exponentially if my vendors would pick up on that. Now, unfortunately, in our case, most of our vendors are not online. So I do have a couple out of the small handful that I have that are online and they do advertise very well. But for everybody else that has the cute stuff, they're not online. So we're not even hitting their market of people. We're not hitting their friend group, their family, the people that are interested in the same thing they're interested in, the people with their same likes and interests. We're not hitting all of them, their coworkers and their classmates and their all that. We're not hitting that market. We're hitting a few of them. And I mean, I've got a decent following for our area, but it's not anything like what it could be if my vendors would also jump in and advertise, whether that be in-house or the actual market day itself. Advertise for yourself. Is it in our shoes? Do I say that's the responsibility of the vendor? Not necessarily, but it's not going to do you any harm. And you're not doing yourself any favors by not. Right? I have noticed that although it may not be necessary, branding offers a lot of credibility. If you go through the effort of creating some sort of a logo, if you can somehow get your logo on your product, whether it be your labeling or the product itself, if you have woodworking and you can brand it or whatever, labeling or branding, creating a presence online, those all give credibility. It puts up a front that there's something there, right? It's like when a store is coming into town and they put the sign up, but there's nothing inside yet. People get excited about it. If they move the stuff in, but the sign's not up, nobody's going to come shop the stuff, right? Branding is really important, in my opinion. Is it necessary? No, but you're here because you want to be wildly successful. So brand yourself. So last year at our market, we have two different setups. We have our indoor vendors, in-house is what I call them, our in-house vendors, and then we have our outdoor vendors. And what I have said is that if you want to bring your products in-house, my preference is that you do a little bit of time outside first for a couple reasons. I think that meeting your clientele face-to-face is so important. And why does this apply to you if you're not in my market? Well, I'm about to explain. So I think meeting your clientele is really important. I think getting that live feedback on your product, watching people's faces as they walk up to your booth, hearing their opinions about the things. Are they interested? Are they gazing and just walking by? Are they stopping and spending any time? Can you tell that they gravitate towards one thing more than another? What sells more? Are you giving samples? Are they telling you what they think about that thing? Are you making connections with people? That is one of the biggest things, because at a farmer's market, why are people there? Because they want to have an experience, a wholesome experience. They want to make connections with people. They want to support local businesses. Okay. They want high quality products made by their neighbors. So you in your booth are offering all of those things. You're offering, hopefully, an experience when they walk into it. Have a little bit of music playing. Have some sort of good smell happening. Do something to make it. Hang cool things off the sides of your canopy. Do something unique and interesting. The way you set up your tables is important. You can set it up right here to where you're behind it and people are in front of it, or you can set it up in a U-shaped where people come in and walk around. That's super cool. People love that. So you have your experience, you are getting that live feedback, and you're making those connections. Those connections, the personal connections, is how you're going to sell stuff long term. People come into my shop, especially with art and crafts things, and especially with arts and crafts things, people like those things. They could get those more than likely off of Amazon, Walmart.com, and Shein. Okay. Temu. They can get those things that you're spending hours on for much cheaper in a lot of other places. They could even probably find it on Etsy or make their own. A lot of the things that we see at a farmer's market, people walk through and they say, oh, I know how to make that. I can make that. Okay, what's going to be the thing that makes them buy yours? You. It's going to be you. It's going to be that relationship that you guys spark up. And what I'm not telling you to do is spark up friendships for the sake of money. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying a farmer's market booth is an excellent opportunity to make connections with people. And you never know whether your products are going to lead you into other opportunities or friendships and relationships with your customers. Your products may be a segue into richer things, not the other way around. Not people are a segue into more money. I've seen this time and again with the farm stand that, okay, yes, we have customers and money is important and I'm constantly running numbers. But at the end of the day, the richest part of what we've gained from the farm stand is the relationships and the people and the connections. That has been so priceless, so priceless. So anyway, but the flip side of that is that when people are wanting to buy products, they're wanting a good, positive memory with that product. If they take home a loom pot holder that their grandkid could have made for them just as easy, but they bought yours, every time they pull that out of the drawer, they're expecting a fond memory of that time they went to the farmer's market and they had a free glass of lavender lemonade and they're buzzing through and there's bubbles and there's some music in the background and they found that super cool vendor that was so sweet and they hit it off and they had these little pot holders. And how fun that I can, every time I set my bowl of mac and cheese out on the counter, I can use this bowl cozy. You know what I mean? People are there because they're seeking connection. Even in today's crazy world, that's why we do farmers markets. That's literally why, because we are putting a stake in the ground and saying it stops here. We're setting up a hospitable environment for relationships and connections to be made. That's why we're here. So participate in that as a vendor. Engage in that process. It's about more than your products. Much, much, much more than your products. You're wanting the same thing they're wanting. You're wanting them to value your time as a local. Engage in that process. Kind of silly, frilly stuff, but stuff that does make a difference. If you can put your tables up on risers, do it. If you can cover them with a nice tablecloth, especially those spandex ones that suck into the table, do it. If you can elevate your things off your table or your booth, give more height, do it. One of my favorite booths I ever saw was a candle booth. They had, their canopy was white everything inside of it was white. Their candle labels were white. Everything was just so clean, and it smelled good because it was candles. It was all cohesive. It was pleasing to the eye. I spent so much time at that candle booth, and I've looked them up countless times since then because I was so impressed with their level of professionalism and how seamless their booth was put together. They did a really good job. It's the details. The line, "The devil is in the details," pshaw. God made the details. Pay attention to what you're doing. There are probably many more specific things that you can do to help yourself as a vendor. And if you are here and you are a successful vendor, drop your ideas in the comments. What do you do, practically speaking, that has been a make it or break it, or you've seen a positive impact on your sales or on your vending experience? If you put these things into practice, you'll probably be a whole lot more likely to have a positive vending experience. So the work on the upfront is worth it when it comes to the time in front of the customer. Be cute, be presentable, be clean, be friendly, be ready to meet your people. Blessings to you on your endeavors.